a three-dimensional matrix over the holographic information it wishes to interpret and reduces that information mathematically to two-dimensional form. It can completely process it using its fundamental binary system, just as any computer made by the hand of man can process volumes of data and make various comparisons between the data and information stored in its digital memory. Our minds operate in the same way, perceiving by comparison only. Bentoff states the proposition this way: our whole reality is constructed by constantly making such comparisons. Whenever we perceive something, we always perceive differences only. In states of expanded consciousness, the right hemisphere of the human brain is in its holistic, nonlinear, and nonverbal mode of functioning, acts as the primary matrix or receptor of this holographic input, while by operating in phase or coherence with the right brain, the left hemisphere provides the secondary matrix through its binary computer-like method of function to screen further the data by comparison and reduce it to a discrete two-dimensional form. Okay, what does all that mean? Basically what they're saying is you have the right brain and the left brain, and they both have very different functions. What the right brain does is tune you into holistic, non-linear information that is about wholes, completeness, totalities. What the left brain does is it takes that information and screens it and processes it and puts it in a linear function, in a two-dimensional form. That's what they say in this document. So essentially, your right brain is taking this holistic information of wholes, of entireties, and giving it to the left brain function. The left brain takes that and breaks it down into linear information that you can process linearly. Now, what's really important about this is this has to do with accessing the information of reality. When you're trying to access different modes of what reality is, what you're doing is you're bypassing that left brain linear function and you're accessing that right brain holistic function, and you're accessing unconscious, either your unconscious or the collective unconscious, and the collective unconscious forms all reality, and all reality, if you want to be new agey, they call that the Akashic Records. I don't like using that term because it has a lot of mystical connotation, but it's the collective unconscious. And so what you're doing is accessing that mode of reality by bypassing that filtering and screening system. But here's the important part. Once you access that reality, and you can access that reality in various ways, through the gateway process, through meditation, through psychedelics. Remember, don't do anything dangerous or illegal. But by accessing that information, guess what you need to do? Once you bypass the linear function and you get that information and you bring it back with you, then you need to re-engage the linear function and examine that information and filter it, screen it, and make sense of it. That's what so many mystics, occultists, and New Agers don't do. They get into these intuitive states, which is great. Intuition is fantastic. And they gather all this holistic unconscious information and bring it to the surface, which is great. But it's not ordered. It's not filtered. It's all very symbolic. A lot of it's allegorical. A lot of it's, you're taking things in wholes. You haven't examined it and put it together properly yet. So this is where you get a lot of crazy ideas. People taking things that are supposed to be allegorical, literally, like when you go to sleep and dream. When you go to sleep and dream at night, your dreams are highly allegorical and highly metaphorical. You know, you'll dream about a screaming child, and that doesn't really represent a screaming child. It represents that you need to nurture the childlike aspect of yourself. So maybe you're working too hard and you need to incorporate more play in your life or something like that. It doesn't literally mean a screaming child, but you have people who, engage in these intuitive states and then don't filter or process or integrate that information properly using reason. And so they come up with these crazy and wild ideas that starts, literally you'll start to go quote unquote crazy if you get into these like New Age or mystical systems, because you're not grounded in reason anymore. You're taking in all this intuition, but you're not staying grounded in reason. So you're going to be mired in this very dreamlike reality. it's important to synchronize reason and intuition together. Look, all of our facets of what we are there for a reason. Our intuition, our reason, our feelings, and our senses all play a role. And it's really crazy how you have certain people who just pick one and think all the rest are false. Our intuition plugs us in to the unconscious, holistic information of existence. Our reason allows us to examine, order, and filter that information into a coherent pattern. Our feelings allow us to experience reality, hopes, loves, pleasures, pains, and our senses allow us to physically navigate the holos, the quote-unquote physical world. All these things have to be done in a way, but they have to be done in a proper way. People who are all about intuition and think, a lot of people who are mystical or new agers or whatever almost think that like reason is the enemy. And so they're all about intuition and reject reason. And then you have some people who are all about reason and reject intuition. They almost seem like intuition and metaphysics is the enemy. No. All these things to human consciousness. They'll later on in this document, there's going to be talk about alternate dimensions. There's going to be talk about other kinds of entities, dimensional entities. It's going to be talking about out-of-body experiences and all sorts of things. Right now, what we're doing is laying the theoretical groundwork and understanding how we work and how existence works so we can understand how to access it. Like I said, if you want to be able to hack a computer, you have to know how the computer code works. You have to know how the programming works, or else you're not going to be very good at it. So this is laying the theoretical understanding of how reality works, how the process of accessing and tuning into those altered dimensions work to be able to better facilitate this process. Now, it continues here in the next section that says, to complete our outline of the process by which the mind achieves an exercise in consciousness. Let me see how much we have to go here. Hold on. Okay, all right, let's read this section here. To complete our outline of the process by which the mind achieves and exercises consciousness, we must also describe the mechanism which accounts for the aspect of human thought that differentiates it from the consciousness of plants or animals, that is, self-cognition. Humans not only know, but they know that they know. This is really important. So the difference between the mental state of animals and the mental states of humans, both animals and humans have experiences. Both animals and humans can experience love and anger and sadness and pleasure and pain. Animals are fantastic. The things that humans are able to do, though, is that they have self-awareness. And this is the knowledge that they know. Now, they are able to monitor the process of their own thinking and maintain an awareness of it. Moreover, they can conduct a comparative assessment evaluating the functions of their thought processes against various objective standards that they have adopted. Human consciousness can do this because it has the capacity to duplicate aspects of its own hologram, project them out, perceive that projection, put it through comparison with the memory aspect, where its evaluation standards of measure are stored of its own hologram, and measure or sense the differences using three-dimensional geometry in the binary go, no-go pulse to yield verbal cognition about the self. Okay, what the hell did they just say about projecting its own hologram and all that? Well, I'll be explaining that in a later video because this is extremely important with regard to reaching a higher state of consciousness, because you have to know what self-awareness is. We know, animals are just simply aware. Humans are aware that they are aware, but what is this? Now, this is going to have to do with the Julian Jaynes idea of the analog eye. This is what's talking about the human mind being able to project a hologram of itself and evaluate it. We're going to be talking about that. But going above self-awareness requires this understanding of what self-awareness is and being able to understand how to go beyond that. Because at a certain point, we're going to be able to talk about how to break past just pure self-awareness. Because if you can go from, this animalistic stage of awareness to the human stage of self-awareness, what ultimately we're trying to do here, what my work is about bringing information to humanity so that they can go beyond self-awareness to hyper-awareness so that we can begin to create a new humanity, a new beginning, a new earth. And this requires the raising of one's consciousness. But that's not the topic of today's video. But it's showing how all this goes hand in hand. All this goes hand in hand together because it's part of a holistic system. This ability of tuning and understanding how reality works, of building a conceptual model of the self, is ultimately all going to tie into how to break past the limits of ordinary human consciousness and reach a higher understanding of a hyper awareness. And you can reach that state of awareness in this lifetime. You can do that. You can do that. It's possible. Now, it continues by saying, up to this point, our discussion of the gateway process has been relatively simple and easy to follow. Now the fun begins. So basically, they're saying, we've explained the theoretical model, we've explained the conceptual model, we've explained what they're saying is kind of like an overview. Now the fun begins. Now the not to do the Anakin Skywalker meme, if you know that, but now is where it really starts to get interesting. And the document starts to get absolutely phenomenal and great from this point forward. I mean, it's always been great, but now we're really getting into the details of it here. So I've already gone on long enough, my friends. If you enjoy my work, please like and subscribe and check out this whole playlist. If you enjoy this, I have a whole playlist on the Gateway Experience, the CIA declassified document. Check out my videos as well. And once again, if you enjoy my work, consider supporting on Patreon to access our weekly of God. We're talking about a new kind of psychology that unlocks the mysteries of reality and connects you to the very fabric of existence. In a nutshell, what is this about? This is about the fact that when one attains a higher consciousness, we need a new kind of psychology for understanding it and exploring it. Now, we are continuing to read the declassified CIA document about the Gateway Experience. The Gateway Experience is a process developed by the Monroe Institute to be able to allow one to access other dimensions and other faculties of reality and faculties of existence. What we are talking about today, you don't need to have seen the other videos to understand what we're talking about today. But if you want to, they're all in the playlist. You can check them out. I highly recommend them. They're very interesting. But specifically what we're talking about today is information that we need to know in general about a new kind of psychology for attaining God consciousness, or what I prefer to call absolute awareness. Now, before we get started, I want to say real quick, if you enjoy my work, consider supporting on Patreon. You'll get access to weekly secret videos. Our last secret video was really good. It was about the mind, reason, and free will, not evolving, but rather being eternal. It was really great. And also, I want to remind you all that there's a lot of scammers out there, so be careful. I'm never going to ask you for your WhatsApp or your Telegram or anything like that. Watch out for that. Also, there are a lot of people and groups out there trying to discredit us. To follow. Now the fun begins. Okay, so a lot of interesting stuff that's about to occur. However, before we continue there, I want to go back just a little bit to one paragraph before, because we didn't have time to get into it last time, but this is key for understanding absolute awareness, or you could call it God consciousness. I prefer absolute awareness, or it being a component of hyper-awareness. Now, to understand this, we have to understand what self-awareness is. And this is exactly what they're saying in the CIA document here, is that you have to understand what self-cognition is. So let's explore this real quick. This is going to be very important for laying the groundwork. You have to know what self-awareness is before one can attain higher awareness. If you don't know what self-awareness is, it's going to be really difficult to even begin to understand and achieve a higher awareness. So, and that's what this is saying right here, as it describes self-cognition or self-awareness. So they're saying, what is self-cognition? What is self-awareness? So it says, to complete our outline of the process by which the mind achieves and exercises consciousness, we must also describe the mechanism which accounts for the aspect of human thought that differentiates it from the consciousness of plants or animals, that is, self-cognition. So to understand what we're going to be talking about, you have to understand how consciousness works, specifically self-awareness, and this aspect is the aspect that separates our mind from the minds of animals, plants, etc. So in terms of, let's say, animals are sentient. Animals have the ability to experience and have pain and pleasure, happiness, sadness, etc. Animals have rich, sentient, subjective lives. They're wonderful creatures. We should all take care of them, be kind to animals, and cultivate a world free from suffering. That being said, they don't have high levels of self-awareness. And by self-awareness, that means the ability to conceptually understand what one is in a way that allows them to project into the future or consciously and on command retrieve memories. So what does this have to do with anything? Let's read a little more to see why. It says that humans not only know, but they know that they know. Another way to put this is that animals are aware. Humans are aware that they are aware. So, for example, a dog will just feel hungry, will be aware of hunger, and thus, because of this awareness of hunger, it will seek out food. A human can be aware of hunger, but also be aware that it is aware. And this allows for one to have more conceptual, abstract thought and planning. So a human that is aware of this awareness will go, see, it has this concept of I. A dog is just hungry, looks for food. A human goes, I am hungry. And then it can choose what it wants to do based on that. Either because I am hungry, I'm going to go to the fridge and get a snack, or I'm going to make reservations at my favorite restaurant at 8 o'clock and pick up my partner before then. We're going to go over there, have a nice dinner, and then come home and watch TV, etc. So this awareness of awareness that involves conceptualization gives the human being new abilities. Now, do you see why that's important? Why this is critical? Why this is key? This elevation of consciousness gives the human being new abilities. It gives the human being the abilities that a dog does not have. A dog and a human are both hungry, but because a human being has an elevated consciousness that allows it to be aware of its awareness and have a conceptualized thought process, it allows us to
Hello, alright, so I got the mic to work, and this video, this is part 4, going into the fun part of the CIA assessment, and talking about what he terms hyper-awareness, which is the next level after self-awareness. And first now he defines what is self-awareness, comparing and contrasting it to the awareness of animals, which only have awareness of the world, of their bodily sensations, but they don't have a concept of
do things
self.
like
They don't have a concept of self, which humans do. And I'm thinking about this, how this actually is a like a mental construct of an identity, so like how can you expand on self-awareness? What is, as they term, hyper-awareness? What would that look like in the new new world, of the next level of human evolution, and just imagining what that would look like. It's something that's very interesting. I imagine it being like, and also going step in step with like the post-information kind of evolution, where the cost of intelligence and knowledge drops down to zero, nearly zero, and as we have AI that is ubiquitous, that is always around us, how we interact with it. So that's something that's happening right now. This year, last year, this year, next year. It's something I've been taking part in building AI applications that change the world. So I'll end it here. Finish the tea and the lunch. It was really good. Udon noodles with pork and shrimp. And I still have this tea, which I think it's unsweetened. I think it'll be for later. Yeah, it's like rice tea. It's really good. Put it in the fridge for later code session. Peace.